Awesome. Well, hello everyone, and good afternoon, good evening, good morning to wherever you are in the world. Welcome to From Material to Masterpiece. I'm Patrick, head of marketing at Neer, hosting today. So some quick notes before we get started. Be sure to use the Q&A feature. Just drop in questions as we go. Today's guest needs almost no introduction. Dr. Joyce Kahng is one of the most respected cosmetic dentists in the country, owner of Orange and Magnolia Dental Studio in Orange County. She's been featured in Vogue, Allure, Forbes, and Glamour, and is nationally known for her signature no prep veneer method. The next hour, she's going to be breaking down three things: the science behind Neer and Moment, her exact clinical framework, case selection, bonding, and much, much more. Take notes. This is the stuff that you want to take back to your practice tomorrow. And without any further ado, Dr. Kong, over to you.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to share my screen for my presentation. Full screen. Okay, sorry, took a second. Okay, so we're going to be talking about a whole bunch of different topics today for Near. Just a little bit about me. My name is Dr. Joyce Kahng. I'm a cosmetic dentist. I practice out in Orange County where it's very, very saturated. Most of my patients come from social media. So we'll also talk a little bit about social media near the end. We are pretty well known for doing no prep veneers in Orange County. And if you ask ChatGPT about no prep veneers, my name will definitely pop up. But that's why I'm so excited to talk to you guys about Neer and the opportunity that Neer presents for you guys as practice owners, or practicing dentists or aspiring cosmetic dentists. So we do have a big mix of people in the crowd today. We have a large crowd, and some people are new to Neer, and some people have already done a few cases. So we'll just quickly go over what Neer is and how it's going to fit into the practice. So there is definitely demand for no prep veneers these days. If you've been on social media, you have seen this. The drawback of no prep veneers is that it oftentimes costs a lot of money to do them. Like the the lab fee is really, really expensive. My lab fee is like $750 a unit, and most patients just cannot cut that. Then on the other side of the spectrum is composite veneers. Those are super, super conservative, but like, let's be honest, not a lot of people like to do composite veneers. I don't. I like to bond. I actually really enjoy bonding procedures. I just don't like doing 10 composite veneers. The amount of work that takes is just like aggravating. And the aesthetic results really vary depending on the skill of the dentist. So there is definitely a gap in the market, and that gap is leveraging technology so that these procedures can be more efficient in your practice and still keeping things minimally invasive, which is what patients are really asking for these days. So here's a side by side of Neer on half of the smile and then the natural teeth on the other half. The material is around 60 to 70% porcelain. I usually tell patients it lasts around 3 to 5 years, and the price is about a fourth the price of regular veneers. And here's another side by side that I thought was really cool. On the left hand side, those are feldspathic veneers done by a master ceramist. Has like all of those things that traditionally as a cosmetic dentist you're looking for. Then on the right side are the Neers. So you can see that there is a difference, but the Neers are not trying to be the feldspathic, right? However, the Neers, most people out there would be really, really happy with the Neers. I think like cosmetic dentists, we're just like we want all those things, but sometimes like regular people, they just want a little bit more confidence when they smile, and the Neers are going to do that for them. Here's a close up of the Neers. So take note of how they're slightly translucent, how there are some areas that are little bit more translucent than others. So you would assume that those areas, the material is a little thinner, and there are some areas where it's thicker. And so, like, the things that you want to start thinking of is, okay, if I have a patient that has really, really yellow teeth, then it may show through a little bit with veneers. So just start thinking about all those things, and we'll kind of talk about this later when it comes to picking your candidates for Neer. Neer properties, zero point 0.3 to zero point 0.4 millimeters of thickness. You can actually go lower than that. However, it's not recommended. I mean, I have actually bonded these onto teeth and then reshaped them a little bit so that they're even thinner in some areas. Keep in mind, again, it's translucent. So if you thin them out too much, then you may have a little bit of show through, but keep all those things in mind. It can go pretty thin. The way that we think about Neer is like the Invisalign of no prep veneers. So basically, Neer has made this workflow as simple as possible for you to implement into your practice. The way that you would start an Invisalign case, you take a scan, you take photos. Same is with Neer. You take a scan, you take photos, and then you submit it to the dashboard. With Invisalign, oh, where did my next thing? Oh, I don't know. My son was playing with my presentation. Okay. With Invisalign, what you're going to get back when you submit these things to the dashboard is a ClinCheck. It's like a digital rendering of all the teeth moving. With Neer, you're going to get back a digital design via ExaCAD. And so let's say that this is your before scan. You're going to pick what style you like. And then what you're going to get back is a digital rendering through ExaCAD. The cool thing is you don't actually need to know how to do ExaCAD. You'll have like a technician that you're going to be communicating with. So this is the initial design that you get back. You'll go back and forth saying, hey, I want my canines to be a little bit shorter or whatever the design changes you want to make are. And then when you hit submit, then that will be shipped to your office. Okay, now going back to Patrick. So this same patient, we are going to be following throughout pretty much the entire presentation. This is Patrick. The first visit is x-rays, exam, scan, and photos. And so this is a quick appointment. It's almost like your consultation appointment. And that's what I did for him. Then when he went home, I submitted all of his information to the dashboard. I got back this design, and then it got sent to my office. So that second appointment, we're just trying on the Neers, trying them on. And then if he likes it, then we go ahead and cement it. So you cement those 10 Neers on the spot. At the end of the appointment, scan for a night guard, which he does grind his teeth. So you can scan for a night guard or like a retainer of some sort. So it's in essence that simple of a workflow. There are some advantages of doing things no prep. So if you've never done any no prep veneers, there are certainly clinical advantages. For most of my no prep veneers, I actually don't get the patient numb, and same thing with Neer. I don't have to get them numb, so we don't have to spend time doing that. Also, there's no frozen, like funky lip. So when you try them on, they're able to assess whether they actually like these and they want you to cement them. Sometimes when they're numb and the lip's not moving properly, sometimes that's a little bit hard to tell. There are no temporaries in this process. So not only are you not making temporaries, the patient doesn't need to take care of temporaries, and you don't have to worry about any of them breaking. Also, when they come back, the gums are pretty healthy because they didn't have to wear temporaries. And then also you're able to get a pretty accurate bite just on that visit where you actually cement them in because there's no numbing. So you're able to do so much more accurately because of the advantages of having things no prep and there being no numbing. And the best advantage of obviously is that you can take your photos and videos because the lip's not frozen. So all of these photos that I took, this is directly after I cemented, like same visit right afterwards. And content is like everything. So that's how you're going to market this thing. If you are a newer dentist or wanting to get into cosmetic dentistry, this is going to be a game changer for you because usually those lab fees are really, really high. It's hard to get patients to commit. But starting off your portfolio with Neer is a great way to get your foot in the door and also just getting those reps. Like we totally glazed over the fact that cementing 10 veneers is just, it's not an easy thing. It is actually a very stressful procedure to do. So I don't like, I didn't really want to glaze over it. It's not easy until you get the reps. And you have to get the reps often enough where you're like building on those skills. And Neer can definitely help you with that. This is his testimonial.
Speaking publicly, speaking to clients.
Can you turn the sound up?
Notice I'm a lot more confident in doing that because I'm not as worried about. I
Is
had a
that better?
chip in my tooth, I had
Yeah.
a gap, I had all these little things that personally I was insecure about, and I don't feel that way anymore. I think what is really cool about it is it's such a subtle improvement that it's not obvious. Like people aren't saying like, "What'd you do with your teeth?" They just know something looks different. So I've received really positive feedback. People ask me like, "Who did you get that from?" Or like, "Can you give me the name of the dentist?" That type of feedback has demonstrated to me that it does look better. But a lot of people didn't notice at first until I was like, "Did you notice my teeth?" And like, "Oh my gosh, they look great." Dr. Joyce, I'd say first of all, was amazing, and that no prep aspect is there's really no risk. Going in when they're like, "Are you sure you want to move forward with it?" Knowing that if I didn't like it, it can be taken off. But that never was a consideration because it looked so well and or it looked so good, excuse me. And the process was very quick. You come in, you get your scan, they send in the teeth, and because it's no prep, it was very seamless. Um, I mean, no numbing, no anything. So that made it a really positive experience for me. The price point is very affordable to have this big of an impact. There's really no reason not to do it if you are insecure or feeling you want improvement in your teeth.
Yeah, so that's Neer in a nutshell. It's been created to be the easiest thing that you can do. Um, and the patient experience is really good. So you heard from his end, no anesthesia and all that. So let's actually talk about worst case scenario because that's like always where my mind goes is like, what's the exit plan for these? Worst case scenario is let's say that one breaks. And this happens with porcelain veneers as well. Like if one breaks, what do we do? You can actually have a new one printed. And I will go over what I did when he broke one. So I'll show you like what exactly I did. But the nice thing about when you do Neer is that you're actually like not completely married to this patient the way that you would if you actually drilled their tooth structure. So the worst case scenario is actually this patient absolutely hates their Neers, right? If they hate them, you take them off. You didn't sacrifice their tooth structure, you didn't prep their teeth. That is still a best case, worst scenario, in my opinion. So let's say that you do need to take these off. I'll tell you kind of like more of a story of how I've tried to take these off. And so this is actually Patrick. This video is Patrick. He chipped his Neers to both canines while I was on maternity leave because he didn't wear his night guard and he grinds his teeth. So what I did was I ordered both of the canines from Neer and got ready for this appointment. When he came in, I basically had to take off his old mirrors and then try these in and cement them. This was my first time trying to get them off, so I played around with the laser, and I'll show you sort of like what that looks like. Now you can't really see very well, but the laser wasn't doing like all too much. It was like kind of like almost like melting the little points of veneer. So what I ended up having to do was drill the majority of it off and then make it like to make it thin, and then I lasered the rest off. And I do think it helped to some degree. Like I was able to just flick it off with a scaler. But I asked I think Amir, and he's like, we're trying to figure out exactly the settings and stuff for the laser. At this point, it's still the recommendation is still to just drill it off. And I do think like after going through this, it's faster to just drill it off. But I did play around with it. And so after the veneer is removed from the tooth, you can see that the tooth is naked again. And then what you're going to do is place this back on and verify that it fits. So it was like a really perfect fit. And this whole appointment, by the way, took me about an hour to replace both of those canines because they were already pre-ordered from Neer. So here it is where this canine is chipped, and then keep in mind where it's chipped, just in relation to the lower teeth, because we'll talk about that later. This is where we have removed it with a laser drilling, and then that's the naked tooth. We put the Neer on down here, and then we cement on the new Neer. So it was a pretty easy like replacement. Here's another one. This patient chipped number 9, so just a little corner of it. And what I did is I ordered them again from Neer. But the reason I actually brought up this case is because whenever you're doing a front tooth like this, make sure you order both 8 and 9. Because if she's been wearing these Neers for a while, the colors change a little bit. It's kind of like when you paint your house, even if it's the same color that you make a new batch of, it'll look ever so differently because the paint starts to fade ever so slightly. So just to be on the safe side, if you're working on 8 or 9, you want to order both of them together. So at least both of them are fresh and new together. This is with both of the Neers off, that those are her natural teeth underneath. And it's really cool to be able to show patients this sort of photo because the teeth are completely fine underneath the Neers, right? They're like, it's as if nobody has ever touched them. And then you just bond on the new Neers. And so this took me it took me a little bit longer because I think when you're working on 2 teeth in the front and the center, you just want to space out a little bit more time. So like maybe an hour and a half to do this. But that's what you do if a Neer breaks, which is almost like one of the worst case scenarios that people can ever think of, right? It's a pretty simple process. This here, I put the bonding protocol so you guys can take a screenshot. I will say, like, when I first started placing Neers, we didn't have this exact bonding protocol, which this comes from with Mod Institute, where they do a lot of these things, and Wally was able to provide this. So I didn't even follow this for my first couple of Neers, and they have been totally fine. But if you want to follow exactly what has been tried and true, this is the bonding protocol that you want to use. All right. Now let's fast forward. Let's say that the patient has liked his Neers and it's been 5 years and he wants to, what are you going to do in 5 years? Um, the thing is, like most people, after they've been wearing either no prep porcelain veneers or Neers, they're usually not going to go back to their original teeth. They're not going to go back in time and go back to this. So what happens is you're going to be opening the door to doing more cosmetic dentistry. You're either going to be taking these off and refreshing them with new Neers if that's what the patient is wanting, or you can totally convert this case into porcelain veneers at this point. These Neers have basically served as a long-term temporary to get them used to the shapes and all that. And then you have something to go based off of when you convert this into porcelain. So the coolest thing about Neer is that you're opening the door to doing all types of more dentistry and doing more cosmetic dentistry in particular in your practice. We'll go over this really quickly, case selection. What's a good case, what's not a good case. So it's okay if there's like a little bit of spacing here and there. In general, you do want these teeth to be pretty well aligned, so pretty straight. And then smaller teeth are better so that you have more room to lengthen them. Occlusion, class 1, class 2. Volume, you want like a patient who is okay with increasing the volume into their buccal corridor or wants to go a little bit longer. Smile profile is if they have narrow buccal corridors, it'll bring a lot of balance to those smiles. And you ideally want to do it on people who don't have existing like crowns, veneers, or anything on their teeth, any restorations. If you see a smile like this where a tooth is really long, it's grazing the lower lip already, usually those are not good cases, or you have to talk about doing some enameloplasty on these cases. Because if you're adding length to this, the tooth is already much too long for you to to add and have a nice aesthetic result. The other thing that I would be really careful of is if there is one extremely discolored tooth, like if there's a calcified canal or a root canal tooth, those types of things, you want to manage the color before you actually get to the near. So if they have a root canal in it, maybe explore internal bleaching. If they have really, really yellow teeth, you want to get them on whitening first and then do your nears because remember those nears are slightly translucent and so it'll show through. It'll affect your color match. If you have really, really bulky teeth, you do not want to do this because you'll be adding more. Remember that Invisalign is always still on the table. So here's the thing about Neer that I noticed is that a lot of people are just really like they want to do their first Neer case. Um, Keep in mind that if you are doing cosmetic dentistry, what that's doing is opening up the door to orthodontics. So sometimes you have to spend a little bit extra time to straighten these things out. And so you're going to be doing an Invisalign case plus Neer. So start thinking like that, where you're combining both of these things. Just like you wouldn't do an Invisalign case without first addressing like the perio and any of the restorative work that needs to happen. So again, opening more doors for cosmetic dentistry. If you're doing veneers and they need Invisalign first, then in order to do the Invisalign, they're doing the restorative dentistry first. And so all of these things are opening the door. And the biggest thing is like people want these procedures. We are taking a departure from like the things people need to what they want. And you'll be surprised at what patients are willing to do for the procedures that they actually want. They will do the Invisalign if you talk to them about it and tell them the pros and the cons and really have an honest conversation about it. And in order to do Invisalign, you have seen patients will do the restorative because they want the Invisalign. So make sure that you're keeping that conversation on the table and not just like jumping to Neer. You want to still be able to prep these cases so that you have a good experience with Neer. Tooth flare, if they're like really flared out, you don't want to do that. You may have to do orthodontics first. And then some of this is redundant, like this is a crown in the front. Here's the thing is you can bond a Neer to an existing crown or an implant. In some cases, you may choose to do that. But for as far as like a first case goes, you want to avoid anything that complicates these things. And one thing that I also put onto this list that I didn't used to is I try to do cases that are not too gummy. Um, I find that the the area of the Neer that is most likely to stain is going to be at the margin, right? So I try to do smiles where the lip covers a lot of where it is at the gum line. And also, it's a little bit harder to manage at the gum line. And I'll show you a slide of that and why that would be a little bit later. But if it's like a young girl, she has a gummy smile, of course, I will do the Neer for her. I think that's still the best option for her. But I try to do like a lower lip line. And I always try to choose easy cases for Neer. We are, I don't know how many people are in the Neer WhatsApp chat where people are like submitting their cases and seeing if people are a good candidate for Neer. There are conversations that we have there where people are like submitting things that are way too complicated. Yes, it can be done with Neer, but for your first cases, choose easy cases. Like Neer is supposed to make your life easy. Neer is supposed to be making your life easy. Choose easy cases. That's my rule of thumb. You guys can do whatever you want, but like that's what I do. Okay, and then when it comes to candidate selection, if all of that just went right over your head, this is the number one thing that you need to ask. Do you want your teeth to look longer and look more full? This is actually essential to ask. And it sounds like a no-brainer, like wouldn't you want to ask that? But you have to ask this because there are some people that I look at where their teeth are so small and they're pretty straight and they have big lips and I'm like, "Oh my God, this is a perfect no prep Neer case." But then when you ask them, if you ask them this question, what if they said they like the size of their teeth? They're actually not a Neer case then. You would need to prep in order to keep the teeth the same size. So you have to ask this question and see if they want to go longer and more full. Ask me how I know. When I first started doing no prep veneers, like expensive cases, I I gave no prep veneers to a patient who had small teeth, thinking that this would give her so much more balance and she would like it so much better. And she actually hated it. She's like, I liked the size of my teeth, and I had to remove all of them. So worst case scenario is that you have to take them off and the teeth are fine underneath, but still, that's a lot of work for you to do. So just ask this simple question. The other thing to make note of is some patients actually come in wanting quote unquote no prep veneers, but they don't understand what that means. They don't actually want to go bigger. So they're going to come to you, say, I want Neers because they think that's synonymous to doing veneers. And this is up to you to use your clinical judgment to guide them to see if Neers are the best option. Okay. When you when you are doing no prep veneers or Neers, the teeth are going to be longer and more full because you're adding on top. And so this is very, very important for you to talk to the patient about. And most patients do not know. Enameloplasty. Okay, this is still Patrick. If I were to do his case over, what would I do? So with Patrick, I didn't touch the teeth and it still came out perfectly fine. So just to say that, but I don't personally think that drilling is the enemy, especially if it's going to take a case from like a 6 to a 10. And it's up to the patient. Some patients are not going to let you enameloplasty, and that's fine. But you should be able to look at these cases and like kind of figure out where would I do it. So I'm going to show you where I would normally enameloplasty a case. If you look at the bottom here with all the little blue marks, those are areas that I would enameloplasty. Like a simple example is the edge of 8 and 9. I literally put the Neer over the edge of 8 and 9. Are those smooth surfaces? No. I should have, flattened those out. Um, I didn't. And it's been fine. But if I were to do this again, if I were to do it clean, like a clean take, then I would actually smooth out that surface. I also usually will take the mesial or the line angle, the mesial line angle of the laterals and just like smooth those out so that the Neer can sit more flat in those areas and it doesn't end up looking bulky. Same thing with the distal line angles of the centrals and the mesial line angle of the canine. The canine also sometimes it's pointy, so I would just round that out a little bit. If you notice on the canines also, I marked a lower tooth. So I think that's a really important conversation that you want to have with patients before you start Neer is adjusting the posing. It's a strange conversation to have when you're talking about no prep veneers because you're like literally trying to save all the tooth structure on the upper, but you have to open that door because you may need to adjust the lower occlusion, especially if it's a tight bite there, which if you look back at where Patrick actually broke his Neer, it's where the bite was really tight against the opposing. So those are doors that you want to keep open just in case because you don't want to like tell the patient, I'm not going to drill anything. Like you do want to come off as being conservative, but being able to appropriately adjust these teeth so that it lasts longer in their mouth. The other place that I would adjust is the height of contour of the canine. So the canines usually have that height of contour. In my opinion, I think like it's a really good idea to just flatten that out because basically when you put the Neer over it, you won't have as tight of a fit along the gum line there because there's like an undercut there that it needs to go over. And the weird thing about like no prep veneers and Neer is I've noticed people think that like Neers are magical and they'll just like wrap around things. They'll go into black triangle areas. They don't do that. They don't wrap around things. This is not a Neer issue. This is a no prep issue. So you have to be able to look at these candidates and really be able to see like, is this a good no prep candidate? And if so, if not, how can I make it better? And these height of contours, you want to flatten out so that that Neer can sit right really tight against that tooth. If I see someone with like large areas of abfraction, you definitely want to talk to them about getting a night guard or something like that because you know that they're doing something. Or talk to them about like a decreased longevity. Now we can talk about Moment. Moment was actually born while I was on maternity leave. Moment actually doesn't need an introduction. This is what Moment is. Okay, I just got a notification you guys can't hear the audio. It's a lot more fun with audio, but it's basically a snap-on smile, right? And then she's able to just take it in and out, and she's actually planning on wearing this for her wedding, because she's always wanted to show more teeth, but she's just not ready yet to do the Neers. So we're able to make this moment for her, and she like absolutely loves it. So with the moment, now that I've showed you the basic Neer workflow with Moment, I would actually change the workflow a little bit. Moment gives you the opportunity to make it as close to like my traditional workflow as possible. So you get a moment, you'll try it into the patient, and this is what it looks like when it comes in. And this is what it looks like close up. To me, this is not my aesthetic taste right now, okay? You have to reshape this intraorally. I know there are some people that where it's fine, like they're not like super aesthetically demanding, but in my area, like we need to open these up, right? So the first thing I would do is I take this blue disc here and the black disc from the Super Snap set, and I would open up the embrasures. That is the first thing I would do at a very minimum. That's how you get this to look kind of more like this, where you have all the embrasures that you would want, just like natural teeth, because these are all connected, but you have to make it look as like not connected as possible, if that makes sense. I also, where the dots are between 8 and 9, you kind of want to like accentuate be between 8 and 9 so it doesn't look as connected, at least between 8 and 9. And then the yellow parts. So for her, you don't really see her gum line, which is why I was saying it's so much easier when you don't see their gum line. But for certain patients who have a really gummy smile, you may want to make these areas more thin so that there is better contour, it doesn't look as bulky. Keep in mind that if you reshape these areas, those are also areas that you probably want to enameloplasty. And so what you're going to see once you take this off is kind of like a heat map of where it's thin. And those are the areas that you may want to enameloplasty or consider enameloplasting because it shows you where it's the most thin. And this helps you to kind of prepare for the next visit when you convert this into the final Neers. So basically what you're going to do is put this into the patient's mouth, scan it, and this is what's going to be converted into your final Neers. So that makes your workflow so much more predictable. Let me see, where did that slide go? Okay. Moment tips. Don't show the moment until you open up those incisal embrasures. That's just personally me. I like when there's incisal embrasures. I think it looks like a uniboob if there's no incisal embrasures opened up. So I would do this all before showing the patient. Let them know that the moment is all connected together. And so they're going to have like a little bit of a different look in that respect than the final Neers. The final Neers are all going to be separate and they will be able to floss through them. You have to say those things specifically. Otherwise, they'll be like, oh, are they all going to, like, they understand what you're saying, but like you have to tell them you can floss through them and that'll like seal a deal on them understanding. And then the other thing is like don't hand them a hand mirror. Hand mirror is like really too close for them for anybody to really appreciate what no prep is going to do for them. Mirrors are really for balance, right? It's to create that balance in the smile. And so the full body mirror is what's going to help them to understand like it's not a close up thing. It's like from far away, it's just going to create more balance in the framework of their lips and their face. If the patient doesn't like the moment, and this is why I think the moment is so critical for me to do moving forward. If they don't like it, can you adjust the moment more so that the patient likes it? Yes or no? If no, the patient may not be aesthetically aligned with Neer. Okay? Sometimes that happens. Sometimes that happens, and that's okay. That happens with like porcelain too. Sometimes I have gone through cases where I've done the wax up and everything, and they didn't like it. So you have to be aligned aesthetically in order to proceed. And it's best if you figure that out before you actually do all this work. The other thing is if they don't like the way that this moment looks, they just may not be a good no prep candidate. Then you can really figure out, okay, what did you not like about it? Do we need to convert this into traditional veneers? So have that conversation with them, but it's really good to know exactly where you're going because you don't want to end up cementing 10 Neers and then figure out that the patient doesn't really like them. So if you're about to get started, we live in the WhatsApp group. I'm going to tell you my ideal first patient. So like I said, keep things easy. My ideal first patient for Neer, straight teeth, small teeth, low lip line, no cavities, wants better brightness and balance, specifically those things. Not too aesthetically demanding, like make your life easier, not too aesthetically demanding. I actually find that guys really, or guys are the ones that you want to do the Neers on. Doesn't drink 10 coffees a day. Same with composite. I mean, this has some composite in it, so put the odds in your favor. If they're drinking 10 coffees a day, it's not going to last as long. Doesn't grind their teeth. And the most important thing is they're going to let me film and post their before and after result because I'm not doing all this work if I don't get to post it before and after somewhere on my social media. So let's talk a little bit about social media. For social media, this is kind of like the light rig that I use right now. I film everything on my iPhone. So my philosophy with social media is you want to make things as easy as possible so that you can get the content. You don't need like a full-on crew to be able to start promoting this in your practice. So buy this lighting rig, you can take a picture of it. And then I use like an iPhone 13 that I keep in my office, or you probably have a better iPhone than that. But just keep it really, really easy. This is amongst one of the first videos that you want to do. And I actually don't think that we have audio, right? In this.
You might be able to turn it up.
It says set up professional audio and audio settings. Okay, wait. I don't know if I can. Spatial audio, voice, no.
We can try it. If not, we can include it in the follow-up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I think this is actually a really good script. So get near. Nope. Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, it just needs volume way up.
Okay. This is what it can look like to get near no prep veneers. The first visit is a quick and painless scan and some photos so that we can get a digital rendering of your teeth. Your cosmetic dentist will digitally design your Neers based off of your aesthetic preferences. At the second visit, your dentist will try each one in and show them to you to make sure you love them. These veneers are a hybrid material of 70% porcelain and 30% composite, which means they are strong like porcelain, can be reshaped in the mouth like composite, and much more affordable for you. Once approved, they get bonded in. A smile makeover with no shots, no drilling, and in just 2 visits to completely transform your confidence. Okay, so I don't know if you guys could hear that or not, but what I'd recommend is this video has done pretty well. It's at like 100K views on TikTok. Um, if you know some sort of format that does well, you just copy it. So like I'm fine if you guys copy the exact scripting of this video and then do like a this sort of thing where you have like footage in the background. So what you have to work on is getting footage of the procedure so that you can explain what's going on while you're scripting it out. So a few of the images that you would want, like videos that you would want. The first visit is a scan. That's super easy to get. Like your assistant can videotape you scanning, and that's like one of the pieces that you need for this. And put it in like a little folder because you're going to use the same scan video for all the other videos that you make about Neer. But this first video, it should like help patients really understand what the process is like, what Neer actually is, how it benefits them, and how it's going to help them smile more confidently. And you know what's really important, that the last piece is make sure to get a patient reaction. That last portion where you see the patient and their reaction, that's actually such a good piece of content to get. You just hold like your little phone at the mirror and then see what their reaction is. So I think that's a really important clip to get. Okay, and then while you're also doing these things, you want to get clips, certain clips, and these are the ones that I think do really, really good on social media. So, like this one over here, where half of them are on, half of them are off. That just tells the whole story. That's what Neer is. It's basically these are your natural teeth. These are the veneers right on top of the natural teeth. No drilling necessary, and it looks pretty aesthetic. So that's a very important photo to get. I also do a lot of these types of videos with no prep veneers on my feed. And this one was actually filmed by a professional team, but I actually think that that iPhone footage is better. So her teeth are like the same as they were underneath. And so that's a very powerful visual for people. You'll actually get, I, I'm pretty confident you'll get tons of cases if you start posting content like this because this is what people want. The moment, we already showed you the video, the moment, like those types of videos that I've shown you throughout this presentation, veneers, the moment, it speaks for itself. No explanation necessary because you're actually showing them what it looks like and what it can do for their smile. So make sure you get all those clips. And if you are new to social media, everyone starts from zero. It's really important, just put yourself out there and start getting these clips and putting them together the best of your abilities. The more that you keep working on this, the better you'll get at it. I promise. I was so bad at it when I started, and this is like 7, 8 years in the making that I'm good at social media now. But everyone's bad when they first start. It's just a thing. And if you're putting yourself out there, you're doing what it takes for your practice. But if you don't put yourself out there, people won't even know that you offer no prep veneers. You have to make yourself visible in today's landscape. And your content is free. Like as of now, content is still free. You have to pay for everything else when it comes to marketing, but creating content and putting it on your Instagram, that's super, super free. Put it on your Instagram, put it on your TikTok, put it on YouTube Shorts, put it on everywhere, and let people know that you are doing Neer. All right, I think that's it. If you have questions, let me know.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Kahng. Fun fact, I'm actually a patient of Dr. Kahng. She did my Neer as well. You saw my little reaction in that social clip. It was, I can say from a patient experience, it was a really cool experience to have. We have a ton of questions coming in, so we're going to start to go through these one by one. If you haven't already dropped in your question, feel free to do so, and we'll try to get to it in the time that we have. We have the first question here. Doctor says, I am just getting into cosmetic dentistry in my area. We can't charge the patient the lab fee. We have a contracted fee with the lab, so whether they're doing Neer or a master ceramist, it's all the same pay. Do you always have to explain the difference in the case to the patient? And do these really only last 3 to 5 years? That's a hard sell to patients. Um, I can say from the contract perspective, maybe that's something that we can work with you and meet with you on. I don't know, Dr. Kong, if you have any experience with that.
I don't. I
Yeah,
don't actually completely understand the question. So you can only offer one type of veneer?
it sounds like it, but Neer, I can at least say this. Neer not only is a prepless veneer brand that you can leverage in your practice, but we are also the lab. So you would be working with a separate entity for these prepless veneers, where you can set the price at a different, variation of what you would be for your traditional veneers. But yeah, we can for sure follow up with you, and maybe it's a bit of an edge use case, and we can work that through together and help you come up with a solution. Next question from, I love this name, Dr. Office. What laser do you have?
Oh, it's called the light touch.
Okay. We have a question here from Dr. Garcia. Do patients ever chip their own teeth during the process? Or have you experienced that working with Neer at all?
With Neer, no. Actually, one of the things I tell patients when I do no prep veneers is I tell them that I actually got this from, I think it was Allen or Heaton, Dr. Allen, Michael Allen or Dr. Heaton. This specific wording is like, you want to tell them, I've designed your case so that the no prep veneer or the Neer breaks, not your natural tooth. And in my experience, the Neer usually breaks, not the tooth. So that's good to do. That's good to say, but like you can't be responsible for catastrophic events where like they bump their tooth on something and the entire tooth breaks. You know, that's not your responsibility. So um, I think like dentists, they put too much pressure on themselves to make sure that their work lasts. But remember that these are functioning in people's mouths, so you always have to open the back door. It's actually not your fault if something breaks.
And then that's a great answer. We have two questions here that I'm going to kind of group together. Do Neers have a higher chance of chipping compared to like feldspathic or porcelain and composites? And then do you need to replace them in 5 years?
I would say theoretically, Neer would be less likely to chip than composite. Composite's like, you know, but it also depends on thickness. So, like, if you're doing composite and it's like 2 millimeters thick, then it's way less likely to chip. And then with your Neer, in areas that are really thin, it might be more likely to chip in those areas too. So, it's the thickness and the material and the way that do work out their occlusion. That's why I was saying always work it out so that you can adjust on their lower if needed.
Great question. And then I know you kind of covered this a bit with patient selection, but when a patient has a larger gap in their front teeth, how do you handle those cases with prepless veneers?
With okay, if they're like a small gap, then you can kind of close that. But remember that veneers don't actually wrap around the teeth. So what you're trying to get when you have like a really large gap is you want to either fill that in with Neer so that it looks like that it's filled in, but on the back end, since it doesn't wrap around the tooth, it's just going to be a shelf. And you have to warn people like, hey, you might need to clean that a little bit more or floss those areas a little bit more. It can physically close in, but it may not be able to fill in the papilla there because it's not like pushing the gum together. So those are all things that you want to tell people if they have a really big gap. And again, this is not really a big issue if they have a lower lip line. That's why I say you want like ideally people who don't have really, really gummy smiles.
Right. And then when enameloplasty is on the table, do you do that prior to ordering the Neers? Or is it done at the time of the insertion?
So you're going to enameloplasty them first, scan that, and then um, send it to Neer. And then the Neers will come back to fit with the enameloplasty done already.
Wonderful. And I got a question that I get to answer. So I'm going to group a couple of these questions together, which is what is the lab fee? How many replacements can you get per case and for how long? And what is the cost of near and moment? So I'm going to give my little spiel here and try to answer all of these questions pretty quick. So the lab fee for Neer 10 units is $1,000. That's your fee as the provider. You get 10 units of Neer, 4 through 13. You can get a backup set, as many backup sets as you want. Each backup set is $250. You can get those in the same shade, use that as insurance for your patient. Or you can get them in multiple shades if the patient is still unsure. Let's say you've tried the moment and they're still trying to decide between A1 and B1. So that's the near side of stuff. Now, for 2 years after that, we keep your scan on file and you're able to order a reprint fee. I have to double check on the reprint fee, but it's a nominal fee, a little bit more than the extra set that comes with the veneers at the time of ordering. For Moment, the lab fee is only $125. However, we have a pretty sweet deal called the Moment 5 pack, which is essentially buy four, get one free. So you get 5 case credits of Moment um, for $500. And for new providers who have never done a near case, that comes with a 90-day guarantee. And that 90-day guarantee is with that 5 pack of moments. If you use all of those moments on patients within those 90 days and don't close a single near case, you get your $500 back. So, pretty sweet deal there. Um, going to transition that over to you, Dr. Joyce. How much do you typically charge patients, and like what would you recommend to other doctors of how to structure near and moment in their practice?
So the recommendation is like 5,000 to 7,500 per case. You always get a set of like 10, unless they only show up to 8. So like 8 to 10 nears is what you're going to get, whatever it takes to fill in the smile line. And I think the first couple cases I did them for around like 5,000. Like I wasn't looking to make a huge profit, although the margins are pretty good, but I wanted to get the footage. The marketing material. So you want to pick people who are going to like if you're doing it at 5,000, that's why I was saying your first couple cases, they need to fit like they have to let you film, they have to be pretty easy to work on. They have like you're doing it for a certain price. And that might be the price that you end up charging. Right now, I am charging 12,000 for Neers. Um, it's just because I'll explain the psychology of that. So I get patients who come in for porcelain, and obviously the Neer is going to be a lot more affordable for them. And I want them to choose the more expensive one. So to not cannibalize myself, I've basically made it so that they're making a decision. Okay, if I can I just not afford the porcelain? If I can't afford the porcelain, I want them to think, okay, Neer is about going to be about half the cost. And if it lasts about half the amount of time before I have to redo it, is the math going to make it so that I'm going to do the Neer or the full porcelain? I don't actually care at that point which they choose, but I want them to go through the process of thinking about it because I don't want them to think like, oh, this is the cheaper option. That's not how I want to position Neer. I want them to like really think like this, can I do the more, the porcelain one? And if I can, then maybe I should save up for that one if that's the one that I want to do. Like I want them to make a very informed decision.
Love it. Have a dual part question about enameloplasty, and then we'll get to one more question after that. which is what do you use for enameloplasty? And then typically in your experience, looking at cases that you've done, looking at cases in the clinical lounge, how many percentage wise of cases do you think require mild enameloplasty?
Most cases require, in my opinion, most do require enameloplasty. And what you can say to the patient is like, hey, we can totally do this case without doing enameloplasty, but doing a little bit is really going to take your case from like a 6 to a 10. And when you say it like that, most patients are like, oh, okay. And tell them, like, most people don't even need to be numb for enameloplasty because when you start talking about reshaping the teeth, they start getting scared, like, oh my God, how much are you going to do? And if you tell them most patients are not numb while you do this, I usually use like a disc, like that black super snap set disc to do it at like the edges of the teeth and at the line angles as well. Sometimes I'll use a burr, like a skinny pointy burr. I don't know what it's called, but I'll use like whatever fits basically, and it's so little that they don't need to be numb. So just to put them at ease. And remember, these things are going to be mapped out for you. So you tell them like these are the areas that I'm planning to do. Not like I'm willy-nilly going. What they don't want is willy-nilly drilling. They want they want things to be planned out and they want things to be done so that there's a better result at the end.
Really like that. Another tip I heard from another dentist is like framing enameloplasty as like polishing the teeth up a bit, of just like we're gonna polish them down, how to give us a bit more room for the veneers as well. Um, just simple ways to put the patient's mind at ease that like they're not going to get those little shark teeth nubs that we sometimes need to do for porcelain cases and things like that.
Yeah, I don't think like drilling is the enemy, although we kind of position it like that, you know. I think what's the enemy is over drilling. We don't want to
Yeah.
do that.
Um, and then the last question that we have, one thing that we were actually talking about before the webinar started, Dr. K, is what do you use for smile simulation?
So I use something called SmileViz. It's really realistic in terms of what I can accomplish clinically. So if you have been following me on Instagram, I'll often post like a smile, the before, what the simulation looks like, and then also what my final result looks like. And I think that just speaks for how good it is.
Yeah. Neer also has a ability to do it. It's not as robust as like a Smile Viz tool. It's a great little asset to have in the office of trying on what a new smile could look like. It just uses quick selfie from a patient's phone and then they can preview it while you're in the office. But we are at the top of the hour, and those are all the questions that we have time for. If we didn't get to your question, we will do our best to answer it in the follow up email. In that follow up email, we'll include a link to the clinical lounge. If you're not already in there, that's where you need to be. That's where you can ask questions of doctors like Dr. Joyce, Dr. Brian Harris, and many other top clinical dentists all over the US who are doing near cases, have experience in the world of 3D printing prepless veneers, and can help you succeed. I personally love it. It's a very friendly environment where everyone's just there to help you. But thank you so much to everyone who stopped by. And one last quick plug, we're coming up on CDA. So, all of our California dentists, make sure that you stop by our booth at CDA. We'll be hosting an event, and we would love to see you there. And with that, thank you so much, Dr. Kong, and thank you everyone for taking some time out of your day.
Bye.
Bye.